sleeping.
No. Oh, I just popped out. Good, okay. Everybody ready? Good evening, board members and residents. I'd like to call to order our regular board meeting for Monday, July 8th, 2024. And I'd ask that everyone present please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Ms. Selgat, will you please take the roll call?
Mr. Badkins?
Here.
Mr. Brado?
Here.
Mr. Olgiati?
Here.
Mrs. Rose?
Here.
Mr. Tominello?
Here.
Mr. Witt is excused. Mr. Verkest?
Here. Board members, I'd be looking for a motion to appoint Ms. Terry Selgat to be the acting clerk for tonight's meeting.
So moved.
Support.
Got a motion by Mr. Badkins with support by Mrs. Rose. Any discussion? Hearing none and seeing no public comment, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Thank you, board. Next on the agenda is the approval of the consent agenda, including approval of the regular board meeting minutes of June 24th, 2024, and approval of the bills in the amount of $925,484.14. Unless there's any changes, I'd be looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
So moved.
All right, is there support?
Support.
Got a motion by Mr. Olgiati with support by Mr. Badkins. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none and seeing no public comment, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Thank you, board. Next is the approval of the regular agenda. Board members, I did distribute a $750 invoice for an upcoming concert that needs to be approved. I propose that we add that as item F4. Otherwise, unless there's anything else, I'd be looking for a motion to approve the agenda with the addition of item F4.
I'll make that motion.
All right, is there support?
Support.
A motion by Mrs. Rose with support by Mr. Brado. Discussion? Hearing none and seeing no public comment, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Thank you, board. Next is announcements. I do have a few announcements. As of last Monday, July 1st, our waste removal contract has been purchased by Priority Waste. There should be, or will be, no changes to the services or pickup schedule. However, please keep in mind that the pickup time during the day may change. So it is important that if Wednesday's your pickup day, that you have that trash out either the evening before or very first thing in the morning. If you have any questions or concerns, please contact Priority Waste, 586-228-1200. You can also find all of this information regarding the new waste hauler on the township website. Our Beautification Commission will be hosting their annual Inspirations Garden Tour on Saturday, July 27th from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m., rain or shine. For more information, please visit the township website. The Harrison Township Parks and Rec Committee is hosting concerts in the park at Waterfront Park. The second concert is this Thursday, July 25th, featuring Ryan Scott and the Creek Hounds. They will be performing from 6 to 8:30 p.m. Bring your own chairs or a blanket. And as always, for more information on these as well as all other township events, you can call the supervisor's office, 586-466-1445. Visit our website, www.harrisontownshipmi.gov, or follow us on Twitter or X at HarrisonTWPMI. Are there any other announcements?
I'd just like to make a correction. I think you said this Thursday, but the date was correct. It is July 25th.
That is, I did say this is Thursday, yep. Another anchor man.
This Thursday or
Yeah.
it's Thursday?
I said this Thursday, and it is not this Thursday. It is Thursday, July 25th. Thank you.
No problem.
So, yep, the second concert, and the minutes say, or my notes say first, so
Okay.
watch for that in the minutes. But the second concert is Thursday, July 25th. Thank you.
What time is that again?
6 to 8:30 p.m.
8:30, okay.
And I know tax bills went out, so.
Tax bills did go out in 7-1.
All right. If there's no other announcements, we'll move forward on the agenda to item D1 from the Building Department. At the last Planning Commission meeting, the Planning Commission was satisfied with the draft master plan with no changes and decided it is ready for the legally required review process. They passed a motion asking the Township Board to authorize the distribution of the draft master plan as required by state law. Attached is the most recent draft of the master plan dated June 5th, 2024. This Township Board needs to pass a motion authorizing the distribution of the draft Harrison Township Master Plan in accordance with the Planning and Enabling Act. Please note that changes can still be made to the plan up to the point of adoption. Once the Township Board has done this, we will work with the planner to send out letters to the surrounding communities, county, and other specified entities letting them know that this draft is available for their review and that they have 63 days to provide comments in writing. Any comments received are advisory only. After the 63-day review period is over, the Planning Commission can hold the public hearing. After the public hearing is held, the Planning Commission can adopt the plan, followed by adoption by the Township Board. So at this point, we're kind of beginning that review process, and so the proposed motion is to authorize the distribution of the draft Harrison Township Master Plan in accordance with the Planning Enabling Act.
I'll make that motion.
All right.
Support.
Okay, got a motion by Mr. Badkins, with support by Mrs. Rose. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none and seeing no public comment, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. I don't believe that requires a roll call. I think it's pretty early, so thank you for that. Next on the agenda, item E1 from the clerk's office, and this is kind of also a sort of a follow-up. At the regular board meeting held June 24th, 2024, Ordinance 308.8 was introduced to amend Section 16.01 regarding non-conforming lots of record, division of non-conforming lot, providing the Township Board the authority to approve deviations with regard to non-conforming lot divisions, repealer, severability, and effective date. We did introduce this ordinance to amend the section. It was published, so at this point, there is a proposed ordinance to adopt Ordinance 308.8 to amend Article 16 of the Charter Township of Harrison zoning ordinance to amend 16.01 non-conforming lot of record, division of non-conforming lot, providing the Township Board the authority to approve deviations with regard to non-conforming lot divisions, repealer, severability, and effective date. Is there discussion or is there a motion to adopt?
I'll make that motion to adopt ordinance 308-8.
Okay, is there support?
Support.
Got a motion by Mr. Brado, a support by Mr. Olgiati. This has been in discussion for some time and reviewed over the course of 2 meetings by Planning Commission and now a second meeting by us, so. Any discussion? Hearing none and seeing no public comment, Ms. Selgat, will you please take the roll call?
Mr. Brado?
Yes.
Mr. Olgiati?
Yes.
Mr. Badkins?
Yes.
Mrs. Rose?
Yes.
Mr. Tominello?
Yes.
Mr. Witt, excuse, Mr. Burkess?
Yes. Thank you. Next on the agenda regarding Waterfront Park. Board members, we awarded the Waterfront Park Shoreline Improvement Project at our last meeting. We discussed the construction engineering, but a breakdown was requested. Attached is a breakdown of the estimated costs. I recommend we award the construction engineering for the Waterfront Park Shoreline Improvement Project to Wade Trim in the amount of $84,500. Couple of comments. We did talk about the fact that the previous proposal was an estimate of costs. We talked about how we didn't anticipate that it would be so much. I had that conversation with the representatives from Wade Trim, so when they did the breakdown, they did reduce the amount of, primarily the amount of inspection, but they did give some breakdowns to some of the other things. For example, materials testing, if it's necessary, they've got a $5,000 allowance. Again, as we discussed previously, none of this work would occur without direction from the supervisor's office during the course of the construction of this project. So we've got a modified proposal with a breakdown. There's a proposed motion. If there's questions, discussion, let me know.
No, I did ask some questions via email. You and I spoke about that. We'll get those resolved, but based on this breakdown and the explanation, I'll make a motion to award the construction engineering for the waterfront park shoreline improvement project to Wade Trim in the amount of $84,500.
All right, is there support?
Support.
We got a motion by Mr. Badkins with support by Mr. Brado. Just for reference, it is possible that, for example, maybe the inspection turns out to be greater than $32,000, and it's possible that we won't have as many frequent meetings requiring $20,000 of progress meetings. But again, this is kind of a lump sum total. They kind of gave us an estimate. Depending on how long the project goes, you know, we'll manage this amount of money to see the project, a $1.3 million project completed.
The only request that I'm asking is for the pre-construction meeting date to be notified of that.
Yeah.
Hopefully in advance.
Well, for
Do you
sure.
have any idea?
I have no, well, I mean, at this point, I really don't feel fair in asking Wade Trim to do work when they've said like, okay, we've done this, you know, we told you what it would take to bid it, they've done it. They've had some preliminary conversations with the contractor, to the point where they know that the work, they don't believe will begin until October. So, let me say this, I didn't feel like we were up against a time crunch to determine that kickoff date prior to tonight.
I think the sooner that it happens probably increases the opportunity for savings, if there is any, right, down
Yeah.
the road. So,
Absolutely. Yeah, for certain, as in the past, we'll hopefully be able to benefit from your construction knowledge and, you know, include you in the project to help it go smooth and cheap, or, I guess
Inexpensive.
1.3 million
Less
isn't cheap, but,
expensive.
yeah. But, you know what I mean. So, all right, any other discussion? Hearing none and seeing no public comment, we've got a motion by Mr. Badkins with support by Mr. Brado to approve Wade Trim for this work at $84,500. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Thank you, Board. Next on the agenda, item F2. Sea-Watch condos were built in the 1990s. During the approval process, I think through the Planning Commission at the time, the township required the developer to contribute $95,000 to construct a water main along Jefferson. The township has held those funds in an escrow account for approximately 30 years, and the cost to install and construct the proposed water main is now significantly more than that. The funds need to be used to make improvements in the area, so it was proposed that we loop the water main on Jefferson to Sea-Watch. This will improve water service to the condos and provide redundancy. For whatever it's worth, currently the feed for Sea-Watch comes through the Gino Surf property from that direction, and it kind of dead ends at Sea-Watch. So in essence, what we're proposing to do is then go from this a hydrant in front of Sea-Watch underneath Jefferson to where the two new homes were built, kind of backing up to 155 acres. That way there'll be kind of a looped flow of water to Sea-Watch, improve firefighting capability, improve water quality. If Sea-Watch were to be built today, the state would not have allowed that dead end. They would have required this cross connection. So, attached in the board packet is a proposal from Wade Trim to design the water main loop. The cost is a lump sum of $14,900, which includes all the services needed to design, permit, and bid for the work. I recommend that we award the design engineering, the Sea-Watch water main loop to Wade Trim at a cost of $14,900.
I have a question. So we contributed 95,000 34 years ago, and it's just been sitting there? Is that what we're saying?
So yes, so we didn't, but what happened was when the project was approved back in the 90s, prior board members, planning commission members said, okay, well, if you want permission to proceed, you need to enhance the water quality. But since we don't normally sometimes the developer actually does that work if it's on site. In this case, they were proposing taking a water main on the opposite side of Jefferson, headed toward Gino's in that direction to connect there. So the money was put into escrow, this project moved forward. There's evidence to suggest that 95,000 may not have been sufficient at that time, but it's really difficult for any of us to go back into the 90s and project that. But in either case, it's been one of those things where who wants to go out and spend more than 95 on, no other development occurred in that area. So this money has sat in a trust and agency account.
Okay.
And really what happened was the auditors at some point and various GASB standards said these trust and agency accounts need to go away. So the auditors have been saying, what are you going to, you need to do something with this money. Either give it back to the developer, which would be difficult because we're going back 30 years, or use it in a beneficial way for which it was intended. And so we met with water and sewer folks, came up with this, cleared it with Mr. Huth, and
So this 14.9 is coming out of that 95,000?
correct.
Okay.
Yep.
So that particular project, that seemed was really, really blocky. I remember, and it seemed like it started and it was stopped for a long time.
Sea-Watch?
And so, yeah, so did the original developer finish that project, or did he turn it over to somebody else, or?
No.
I mean, it just seemed
I
like.
don't know. I couldn't tell you. I mean, again, 30 years ago, it wasn't on my radar. I know it's been finished for quite some time, right? But I don't know, I don't recall that they ran into troubles there.
Yeah, I
but-
just was kind of curious with I've always gone by that property. It's a nice property. I know a lot of people that live in there.
Yeah.
But I know for a while, it just seemed like they were taking a long time to finish it. Building sat unfinished for quite a long time, and I just wasn't sure if there was a history behind that particular project.
And there's somebody at home just pulling their hair out because they know the whole story.
Yeah. Rob,
But,
maybe you know what happened with that back then.
I'm racking my brain, and it just sounds familiar, but I don't have enough recollection to tell you about it.
Yeah, probably nothing crazy, just kind of.
Is that sort of like the phase two of the original?
So there is a property that was slated for phase 2 there, and I don't believe it ever occurred. I mean, I know it hasn't occurred, and I know it's been
But
discussed for
Sea-Watch
sale.
is not phase two from the other.
No, I think there was a phase 2 of Sea-Watch that was
Wow.
proposed, and that never happened. But again, I've had folks inquire about the property, and various brokers through the years contact me regarding it, but at this point, I'm not aware of anything planned. Really, again, this is just kind of using up some funds that have been sitting on account, and the process of using, I think the engineer's estimate was about $70,000 for the construction. When we're done, if we don't spend all the money, but we spend the majority, we're allowed to put that into our water and sewer fund. If we spend a little more, we take a few dollars out of the water and sewer fund to make sure the project is completed, but in the end, we're spending money with the general intent that it was slated for 30 years ago. Any other discussion?
Looking at this proposal, I was a little critical of Wade Trim last meeting
Mhm.
for this quote looks like we're getting a pretty good bargain.
Yeah, they're
So, I
spelling
mean,
out quite a
For
bit of work.
everything they're doing with the permitting, this is a big deal.
It is, and this isn't really a lot of engineering per se. This is, but there's a lot of preparation to allow a contractor to do this work. You're working in a road area, you got state permits, things like that.
The
so
price seems very, very fair to me.
I think so.
Yeah,
All right, well, would you be willing to make a motion?
I will.
All right, so I'm assuming you're making a motion to award the design engineering of the Sea-Watch water main loop to Wade Trim at a cost of $14,900.
Yep.
All right, is there support?
I'll support that.
All right, we had a fair amount of discussion, is there any more? Hearing none and seeing no public comment, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries, thank you, Board. Next on the agenda, item F3 regarding our OPEB, other post-employment benefits. Typically, OPEB benefits are retiree health care benefits, although life insurance or other incidentals are a part of that. Our 2023 audit is complete. We have final figures for each department. The general fund is up $1.694 million. Our fire fund is up $223,000, and our water sewer fund is down due to the meter reading system purchase, but still has a fund balance of over $4.2 million. Based on these figures, I am proposing that we contribute $100,000 each from the general fund, fire fund, and water sewer fund to the OPEB trust. The $1.694 million for the general fund, a lot of that was a rollover of ARPA funds. But again, we typically oftentimes look back, when we do well, we try to put a few bucks in the OPEB fund. That OPEB fund has an expected rate of return, I think, of 6.75%. So it's invested well, and over the long haul, it's helps us to close that gap and guarantee those benefits for current and future retirees. So discussion, or is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to contribute $100,000 each from the general fund, fire fund, and water and sewer fund to the OPEB trust.
All right, is there support? Support. All right. Got a motion by Mr. Badkins with support by Mr. Olgiati. Any discussion? Hearing none and seeing no public comment, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Thank you, Board. Next on the agenda, item F4, regarding a contract with Ryan Scott and the Creek Hounds. Board members, they are the band scheduled to perform Thursday, July 25th, 2024 at Waterfront Park. I did produce the contract. I'm be looking for a motion to approve this contract and authorize the expenditure of $750 for the concert July 25th to Ryan Scott and the Creek Hounds.
I'll make that motion.
All right, is there support?
Support.
All right, got a motion by Mrs. Rose, with support by Mr. Tominello. Discussion. Hearing none and seeing no public comment, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carried. All right, at this point, we'll open up the floor for public comment. It can be about any subject you wish. We ask that you try to limit that to 5 minutes in length.
Good evening. My name is Ramona Romero, and I live on Huron Point. I'm here this evening requesting an update on the plans for a monument for Lieutenant Colonel Odell. Has any decision been made regarding the location for this monument? And what, if any, action has been taken within the last 6 months to start something as soon as possible? Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no other public comment, we'll close the floor for public comment, move back to board comment. Nothing new since the last update. We have discussed incorporating some sort of memorial or monument at the new pedestrian bridge, but we're in the preliminary construction, preliminary design engineering of that. I don't think we'll have any concrete plans for probably 90 to 120 days to be able to even evaluate where the bridge is going to be placed. There's some consideration in terms of the soil conditions on each side of the spillway and what sort of abutments can be constructed, where that needs to be located. So I don't anticipate any kind of plans or even concepts probably for the next at least 90 days. But hopefully, once we have a pretty solid position of that bridge, we can have some discussions, maybe approach the family with some concepts and see if there's a suitable location at that site to recognize Digger Odell. The good part about that is I do believe that's going to be a busy pedestrian bridge. So I do think if we think of a place where you can place a monument where someone might be recognized, maybe where a QR code could be scanned and some young person can read about his bravery and heroism, there's probably more traffic there once that's done than there is out front here. So it could certainly prove to be a more public and easily noticed way to recognize them. But at this point, that's about all the discussion that we've had. So, any other board comment?
Several months ago, there was on all the local news channels about Macomb County residents paying for water for Highland Park. And I believe there was some type of resolve. Do you, because I seen credit and I seen refund, I just was curious.
Yep. So there was litigation and there was ultimately state action. And the resolution involved the state allocating funds to pay that gap or difference. So Highland Park, throughout a period of time, had claimed that they didn't need to pay. They had this agreement in the past, and they only had to pay this much. GLWA disputed that, so they were paying much less than they should. Every year, this debt was accumulating. you know, going by memory, I think I distributed an email, but it was something like 5 million for water and 15 million for sewer, something like that. That was paid for by the state to square up that debt, and a global agreement to say, okay, once this is approved, everything's done. So those funds have been approved, they've been received by GLWA, and I believe that credit is coming to each community in some quantity in the next 30 days.
Okay.
So, all right?
I know that was a big news story at the time. A couple of us were a little bit up, so thank you for
Yep.
that.
Any other board comment?
Any update on Geno Surf? I'm always asked that, it's the most popular
They're
question.
they're hiring.
Yeah, I think they're close, but I don't have anything official.
Okay, thank you.
All right, any other board comment? Hearing none, I'd be looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Support.
Motion by Mr. Brado, support by Mr. Badkins. Discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Meeting adjourned. Thank you, board.